Hi everyone. With the launch of Sophos Firewall version 21, we now support third-party threat feeds with active threat response. Sophos Firewall now supports automated threat response for threat indicators inserted by third-party IOC providers, MSPs, and industry-specific consortium to automatically block threats in all subsystems, firewall, IPS, DNS block list, web protection, and deep packet inspection. It also extends synchronized telemetry for third-party threat feeds. Sophos Firewall provides a threat analysis by correlating threat attempts by managed endpoints. Today, I'll demonstrate how to integrate threat feed providers for Sophos endpoint. I'll explain how the firewall interacts with unmanaged and managed endpoints to gather process and executable details, and how it protects against lateral movement. And finally, I'll show you on-box and cloud reporting. Before we begin, ensure you are running Sophos Firewall version 21 or later with an active Extreme Protection bundle. The firewall must be registered to Sophos Central with firewall management, central reporting, and optionally synchronized security turned on for lateral movement protection. On the endpoint side, a valid InterceptX license for endpoint security and lateral movement protection is required, but this is optional. And finally, the threat feed format should be in a .txt file with a threat feed format of 1 indicator of compromise per line, and the protocol should be HTTPS. Sophos supports authentication such as basic auth and token-based authentication. Let's walk through a demonstration using third-party threat feed integration. Here, a customer has subscribed to Threat Feed Intelligence from Grey Noise Intelligence and wants to integrate it with their Sophos firewall. To integrate a Grey Noise account, you need an account with the appropriate plan to access the block lists. First, click on the Trends tab. Under the Trending section, you will see all the trending threat feeds that you can integrate with the firewall. I will select one of the feeds that I want the firewall to block, in this case, the backdoor feed. If I click on this feed, there is an option to block at the firewall, and if I expand it, the URL is shown. I will copy the URL and save it to the clipboard. Next, I will switch to Sophos Firewall and navigate to Active Threat Response in the menu. There's a new Third-Party Threat Feeds tab option. This allows you to integrate threat feeds from up to 50 sources. There are no active threat feeds, so I'll configure our first threat feed by clicking Add to add the new integration. I'll name this threat feed Grey Noise Feed. The action can be either block or monitor. I'll choose block. For external URL, I'll paste the URL I copied earlier. Note, the URL contains the authentication parameter as a query string. I'll leave the other configurations as default. The polling interval can be any duration between 1 hour and 30 days. Next, I'll test the connection. The test is successful, so I'll save the integration. The firewall will start downloading the threat feed or polling this URL at the defined polling interval. Once done, I can refresh the page and see that there are a total of 218 indicators that the firewall successfully downloaded. I can also view a quick summary about the active feed, threat indicators, and storage information here. As mentioned, the firewall only supports threat feeds in a format of 1 IOC per line, and it should be over HTTPS. Next, I will add one more threat feed, this time from CrowdSec, an open source provider that offers both free and paid curated feeds. I'll click Block List and go to the Integrations tab. Here, I've already added the integration. Let's configure and refresh the credentials to view the details. While adding new integration, I can see the endpoint and credentials for downloading the IOC. Copy these to the clipboard. Note, ensure to copy the credentials as they only appear once. Back in Sophos Firewall, click the Add button to add a new feed. I'll name this feed CrowdSec Feed and set the action to block. Paste the URL from CrowdSec and set the authorization to basic authentication. Then supply the username and password from CrowdSec. Now test the connection. The connection was successful, so I'll click Save to add the feed. After refreshing the page, I see that the firewall has downloaded all the threat feeds. There are now over 6,000 indicators across 2 different active threat feeds with some usage of memory. Likewise, I can add multiple threat feeds from industry contributors or any other source, provided that they are in the .txt format and the IOC is 1 per line. We've tested multiple threat providers. Check out the links in the video description for more details about these threat providers. Next, I will try to access a bad IP from an unmanaged endpoint. Under Total Indicators, I'll select the block feeds, copy one of the IP addresses, and try to access one of the blocked feeds from my browser. As expected, there's no response because the access is blocked. The firewall will block the IOC, such as IP addresses, domains, and URLs across multiple subsystems, including the firewall, DNS block list, web, and deep packet inspection. Now, I'll head over to SFOS and view the control center. In the new Active Threat Response widget, under Third-Party Feed, there is a list of all the threat feeds and blocked events. By clicking on blocked events, I can view more details. Here, I can see the IP addresses of endpoints that attempted to access the IOC, the threat feed that enforced the block, the threat indicator, and the number of events recorded by that firewall. Additionally, the firewall module works in unison to block a variety of threats. Now, I'll navigate to the log viewer to show the events that were generated. From the drop-down menu, select Active Threat Response. With this filter applied, the blocked feed events generated by the specific gray noise feed are shown. Under Origin, I can view the traffic that was blocked. The firewall modules I might see are IPS, DNS, Web, and DPI. Next, I'll attempt to access a bad IP from a managed endpoint. Here, the Sophos endpoint is installed and connected to Sophos Central, indicating that the device is protected. I'll now try to access one of the bad devices from CrowdSec using the bad IP address. As expected, there's no response because the access is blocked. I'll now open my endpoint and find that the threat has been detected. Next, I'll go to the Events tab. Here we can see that the threat was identified by the CrowdSec feed. There is also detailed information about the process and executable involved. Let's check what's happening in the Firewall UI. In the Active Threat Response widget, we see the threats generated by CrowdSec. If I click on these events, I can observe that the threat originates from another managed endpoint. Since this access attempt came from a client running Sophos endpoint, the firewall will query the endpoint for additional details such as hostname and the process that attempted to access the domain. The heartbeat status has also turned red. Sophos Firewall will block the MAC address, and all communications from this endpoint will be denied. As a result, if I try to access this internet now, there will be no response. Next, let's see lateral movement protection in action. Lateral movement protection prevents threats from spreading by blocking compromised devices from communicating on the network. Once an endpoint is detected as compromised, its MAC address is blacklisted by the firewall and shared with other endpoints on the network, preventing communication from the compromised device. To turn on lateral movement protection, go to Sophos Central, navigate to My Products, General Settings, then reject Network Connections. Enable the option to reject connections from devices with a red heartbeat. Note that the firewall and endpoint should be connected to the same Sophos Central account. I'll save the changes. To demonstrate this, I'll go to Sophos Firewall and verify the connected endpoint information. Here I see 2 connected endpoints, and when I go to Sophos Central, synchronized security is also enabled. First, I will ping another endpoint on the 2.10 network, and I can see a successful ping response. Now, I'll try to access a malicious IP from another endpoint, and here the ping is blocked immediately, indicating that lateral movement protection has triggered. In the event log, I see that access to this computer is blocked as expected. Lastly, I'll discuss reporting. Sophos Firewall version 21 supports both on-box and cloud reporting. On-box reporting can be accessed from Reports and navigating to the Network and Threats tab, and show Active Threat Response. The Firewall Reports includes many more insights on the threat sources, number of events, users, and the module that blocked the threat. If I'm using a managed endpoint, there will be additional information, such as the process and executable information, the login user details, and the unique destinations and hosts that tried to access them. If a user accesses the threat from a Sophos endpoint, additional telemetry is available under the Synchronized IOC section. This includes details such as process user, executable, threat URL and IP address, and the number of events. Next, I'll explore how to view reports in Sophos Central. To do so, in Firewall Management, go to the Reports Hub tab. I'll select the firewall I'm interested in. In the Security section, I can see all consolidated events detected by MDR, XOps, and third-party threat feeds. Currently, there are 158 events listed. Note that the label says XOps, but it includes events for MDR and third-party feeds. We will update this label to ATR shortly. To view a detailed report, click View Report. Here I can view details such as the number of sources, threats, and hits. Finally, I'll navigate to the Firewall menu. Here, I'll see one endpoint connected and the other endpoint at risk. And that covers third-party threat feeds in Sophos Firewall version 21. I hope you found this video useful. Be sure to check out the other Sophos Firewall v21 product demos and relevant documentation linked in the video description. For further assistance, view and post questions on community.sophos.com and go to techvids.sophos.com for more great videos like this one. Thanks for watching.